So our topic right now is open inquiry. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this. We'll go a lot of different directions. The first thing we want to do is to talk about what we call selective perception. Since the late 50s, the psychologists and social scientists have studied selective perception. And basically what it means is that people see what they see based on all sorts of internal factors as opposed to what's right in front of them. So I'm going to show you an example of that now. Everybody look at this closely. Everybody got it? Okay, we're going to read it together now. When I say 1, 2, 3, we'll go in this order. 1, 2, 3.
Snake in the grass, Paris in the spring, busy as a beaver.
Okay, so just because Dale, I think I heard you say snake in the grass, busy as a beaver, Paris in spring, correct?
I read snake in the grass, Paris in the spring.
Okay, good. So, snake in the grass, Paris in the spring, busy as a beaver. Would you believe me if I told you you were wrong? You would not believe me. Okay, so how deep does your belief go? Would you bet me $1 on that? Okay, let's see your money, girl. Okay, so while you're getting out your money, I'm going to put this.
I have a gold watch.
You have a gold watch. That's very good. Okay, we're going to give her another chance, so don't help her. I know some of you are onto this and you know where it's going. Some of you do not. Many of you agree with Dale, but don't say anything. This is just between Dale and me. Ready, Dale? Same slide. Try it again.
Snake in the grass, Paris in the spring, busy as a beaver.
Okay, so you missed it again. We could go double or nothing if you like. Do you believe me? Do you believe me now?
No.
You do not believe me. Okay, so we're going to try it again.
I don't have any more dollars.
All right, so here we go. You're going to get another shot, Dale. Obie's helping you out. All right, here we go. Try it again. Don't anybody help her. Most of you can't help her because you see what she sees. Ready?
You want me to read it again?
Please.
Snake in the grass, Paris in the spring, busy as a beaver.
Wrong again. We're going to help her out here. Snake in the grass, Paris in the spring, busy as a beaver.
This is my problem.
Yeah. Let me have my $1 back, by the way. No, you can keep it.
It's actually perfect.
So what we're talking about here is how do you organize information that seems so simple? One of the ways that Steve and I, through the years, have noticed consultants organize information is we call it the disease of expertise. The more you know, the less you really hear and listen to clients. They start talking, and you're already way down the road and you've jumped to solutions. You don't even hear them. Now, the good news is most of the time you're right. The bad news is you've left the client way back at the starting gate and you're already moving towards solutions. We know this because we do it as well from time to time. Let me show you another example of how this all works. So, whoops. There we go. Please write this down. I won't pick on you anymore, Dale.
All good, I earned it.
Everybody got that down? All right, listen closely. Using one continuous line, turn that into a 6. I will repeat. Using one continuous line, turn that into a 6. I would say we've got 26 people in the room. I would say we ought to have at least a half a dozen of you who get it. Barbara says she's got it. Let me come see. Don't show him. Do not help him. That is correct, Barbara. That is correct as well. Kristen, no. Marcy, yes. No. Yes. No. Okay, we're doing pretty well. So Mike, you did get it. Go show them the answer. Those who didn't get it, let's welcome Mike up here. He's going to give you the right answer.
I have my invisible red pen.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So we organize information according to our biases. Our biases might have to do with where we grew up, how we were raised, our ethnicity, our culture. They might have to do with the mood we're in. There's all sorts of biases. How many of you have bought a new car within the last, say, 6 months? Raise your hand. Okay. Ryan. Ryan, what did you buy?
Subaru WRX.
A Subaru WRX. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really, really cool. Okay. So are you one of those people who just goes out and makes the decision and really quick? Or are you one of those?
No, years of research.
Years, okay. So when you had isolated the Subaru, what is it? WRX. When you had isolated that was the car, and you're driving around, but you hadn't bought it yet, what did you see a lot of on the freeways? That car. So we're not trying to do this. The reality is unconsciously shaped according to what we're most interested in. I remember when my wife was pregnant the first time, and I never really noticed how many pregnant women there were out there. My God, everybody, what happened overnight? Someone's been busy. And then, when the baby was born, I discovered the world of baby paraphernalia. There's a nice stroller. Believe me, I'd never noticed strollers before. They were not in my universe. I'll tell you an extreme example, a story of this, a true story. You may remember years ago, there was this comet that went over, it was called Kohoutek. Anybody remember that? You're looking very blank, so I'll assume the answer is no. Trust me, there was a comet called Kohoutek years ago, and it got pretty close to the Earth. Now, there was this group in San Diego. I've forgotten their name. It'll come to me in a moment, but they were a so-called cult. And you remember this?
Heaven's Gate.
Was it Heaven's Gate? That's a very revealing comment, wouldn't you say? Yes. So this group believed, now I'm not making this up, this group believed that this comet was going to come down, and on the tail of the comet was a special rocket ship that was going to pick them up and carry them away because they were so good. And it got closer and closer, and so they went down to a fancy camera shop and they bought a telescope where they could see it very well. It was a very high-end telescope. Comet got closer and closer, and at its closest to the Earth, they focused their telescope. They, of course, did not see the rocket ship on the tail of the comet. So what do you think they did? No, they did not commit suicide, or did they? I don't remember. But they did, but that's not part of the story. What did they do before then? What?
They all had purple Reeboks on and rolls of
A scarf and then a rebar.
Right, okay. So I will give you the answer. What they did was, this is true, they went and took the telescope back and told the camera store it was defective. And it's an extreme example of the way this works. We see the world through our interpretations of the world, not as the world really is. Now, it's our job as consultants to understand how clients see the world such that we can build a partnership, build trust, influence them, learn from them, and so on. It's not just to do the work. It is to build relationships, build trust, build partnerships. So what we've got to do is understand how interpretations work, how we can finally get through to that. So let's do a little demonstration here. I need somebody to come up front and play an upset Ikorio client. Who would like to do that? So what we're going to do is, you're not going to get wet, I promise you. Just hold this. Don't drink it, because I want to do a little demonstration with it. So I'm going to get out of the way, and Jesse, what I want you to do, you're going to start the conversation, and you're upset about this, and you're going to be in what we call the yeah but mode. You guys know what the yeah but mode is? Very simple. Whatever the Ikorio person says, the client says, yeah but. Yeah, but you don't understand. Yeah, but, okay, so you're going to be in that mode. Now, what you're going to do, I know you wouldn't do this, but just for the demonstration, you be in that same mode. And we'll let it kind of bubble into a conflict a little bit. But I won't let this go but a few seconds, I promise. It won't be difficult. You ready? Okay, you start us off. Go.
You know, we were supposed to get this done today. What happened?
Yeah, but we were looking for some additional information from your team, and that was leading to delays that happened with this engagement.
Yeah, but you told me that we could get it done, and I told my boss, and now he's upset with me.
Yeah, but we still delivered everything we could within the time frame constraints that were provided in this scenario. We still have a good product going forward and working with you folks.
Well, but I've got like a dozen testers lined up to look at this starting today, and what are we supposed to do with them? Are we supposed to just have them sit down and do nothing?
Yeah, but there is some stuff for them to do. We're still working on some material to prep them, so things can continue to go along smoothly in the future time frame.
Yeah, but you promised this.
Yeah,
All right.
but we didn't get the information.
All right. Stay up here. Let's hear it for our volunteers here. So let's talk about why you're holding the water, and we're going to make a point. And remember I said earlier today, excuse me for being in front of you. Remember I said earlier today that we have certain kinds of buzzwords or whatever you want to call those words or phrases. This is going to be one of them that we're going to use for these whole 3 days together, and that we hope you'll use and remember. The way it works, and I'll get to the phrase in just a moment, is Jesse, being the client, has a full glass. In this case, it's a bottle, but it's a full glass. And in this glass are all his thoughts, feelings, judgments, perceptions. Remember, a lot of them are completely wrong interpretations of what's going on. So if you argue positions and facts, you're on the wrong track. He's got a universe of interpretations in here. All right, so what Jesse's trying to do is he wants to pour it out. And he wants Brad to receive it. Now Brad, doing what I told him to do, which was the yeah but, he starts trying to pour in to Jesse's glass. And almost immediately it overflows. Jesse cannot hear it when his glass is full. No matter how artful it is, how factual it is, how experienced you are, they can't hear you and don't want to hear you. So therefore, the buzzword, the phrase is that we're going to carry through and you're going to take and use is, when in doubt, when there's conflict, when there's confusion, when you don't understand, empty the glass. Empty the glass is the key to inquiry. So practically speaking, I'll let you go in just a second. Practically speaking, how would you empty the glass? What would you do? Listen, good. And? Acknowledge, yeah, go ahead.
Don't say accept what he's saying, acknowledge and accept what he's
Good, acknowledge and accept. But how would you know what's in the glass? So you ask a lot of questions and you understand and you accept. You're in inquiry mode rather than advocacy. So we're going to now look at exactly how to do that. Let's thank our volunteers one more time. Thank you. Good job, thank you. So when people are in that mode and they're defending themselves and their position, you will often see this thing called the DJA. They will deny what's true, they will justify their own point of view, and then they will attack either others or you. And if they're not voicing the attack, they will say it to themselves. They'll be going, Dale, that's a very good point. And they're thinking, I can't believe she said that. Oh, God. So the DJA. Now, here's the interesting thing. When most consultants hear a DJA from a client that's really a strong one, what do most consultants do? They do their own DJA. We all do it. Well, you don't understand. We came here, and that's not exactly right. We've been trying to meet with you guys, and we can't get you in the room at this, all of you at the same time. We just wanted to meet with you. I'm justifying myself, and I may or may not use the direct attack. That's really leading nowhere. That's going to lead to a conflict. So, before we get into how to empty the glass, I want to show you one more thing called the confirmation bias. How many of you are familiar with confirmation bias? A few of you, good. So confirmation bias is it's a really interesting phenomenon. I encourage you, if you're not familiar with it, to Google it. Basic confirmation bias says that people, when they have strong positions and they hear another set of facts or logic that calls their own position into question, they not only don't agree with it, they get into their own position stronger and come back with it stronger. And the more emotionally tied their position is, the more they will do that. So no amount of logic is going to move them off their position. Let me give you a classic example of the confirmation bias that was studied many years ago when they did an MRI of people. And they found out that during a political debate, when the other person against your candidate, was making great points, it made the person so uncomfortable that they felt pain. They wired up their brain and they felt pain. And so to feel less pain, they would get more into their beliefs about their candidate and attack more the other candidate. So data and logic, when somebody is in that DJA mode, does not work. However, what the scientists have found that does work is two things. First, to value the other person in such a way, and Barbara, this is what you were talking about, in such a way that they get, oh, I guess I am okay. She does hear me, and that seems okay. And second, we'll get more into this later on today, be able to tell stories about past clients that reduces their defensiveness. Why stories? Because stories access a different part of the brain. And there's these receptors in the brain that have to do with empathy, and they start empathizing with the issues in the story. You tell a client story about something that happened in the past with a client, all of a sudden they're out of their defensiveness mode. So let's come back to, there's the backfire effect right there, that they get more extreme into their own position. All right, so empty the glass. Emptying the glass is the way out of the confirmation bias. It's the way out of DJA. We want to understand what's in the glass, their problems, needs, fears, beliefs, and values. Let me tell you something. You do not do this all the time. The world doesn't have enough time for you to do this all the time. You do it when there's conflict or in early stages of a project where there's a lot of information you don't know and you're sensing there's a lot in the glass and you just need to empty it. So how do you do it? There's two basic stages to it: inquiry questions and playing back what you hear. And it's a lot more difficult than it seems because you want to talk rather than listen. We all do. You have to really work at it. And when you can really listen and hear what somebody has to say and really focus on them without bias and with curiosity, people love it because it's so rare in society. It is so rare. And you're giving people a great gift. It takes discipline and it takes great curiosity to do that, to empty the glass, without trying to empty your own glass. So let's look at it. So a good way to begin emptying the glass is to ask open-ended questions. Who, what, where, how, which, when. Tell me about, help me understand. What question is not up there that is an open-ended question? Why? How come why is not up there? Yeah.
Because it's an interrogation.
Or it could feel that way.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Who likes ice cream? Wow. Why is it only people on this side of the room like ice cream? Now that is a new phenomenon. Wow. Okay, well, the ice cream side. All right, Obi, you like ice cream?
Oh, yeah.
What flavor do you like?
Rocky Road.
Rocky Road, okay. Pretend where you're going to come into my ice cream shop. Ready? Okay, ding, ding, ding. Yes, can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like a large Rocky Road, please.
Why Rocky Road?
I just really like the marshmallows and the nuts and the caramel and the chocolate is really delicious.
Yeah, but why all that stuff? Why all those different things? Why not something else?
It speaks to a sense of adventure.
You're terrible. So, what did I make Obi do just with that question? Justify. It makes people justify their positions and opinions. Now, there's really two modes of listening that you get into, and they're both appropriate at different times. One is called analytical listening, when why is a perfectly good question. When there's no defensiveness, there's nothing in the glass, you're solving problems together, that's great. The other kind of listening is what we might call open listening, where there might be upset, conflict, difficulty, resistance, or confusing information. Then you really got to be careful with why. So you start asking these open-ended questions, and then every once in a while you play back. And you got to do this, and this is the hard part, really. You got to do this in a natural, sincere way. You can't fake it. I've tried. You can't fake it. So you come up with your own way to do this. Some examples would be, so it sounds like what you're saying, what I think I hear is, and it's good to end with, did I hear you? Is that correct? Now you may think people would say, well, of course it's correct. Why are you repeating it back? No, they don't do that. In fact, they like it, and it makes them actually talk more and open up and pour out more out of the glass. Now, people, you may be thinking, yeah, all this is great about emptying the glass, but when is it my turn? And it couldn't be your turn after the glass is relatively empty. If there's still a lot in the glass and you start in, you're probably going to get that defend, justify, and attack thing again, or passive aggressive, or other kinds of things. Now, having given you some suggestions on how to empty the glass, again, let me say, do not overuse this. I once did a class on listening, and there was a guy on the front row of the class. It's classroom style. His name was Luther, and I remember him to this day because he seemed to really like the class, and he came up afterwards and told me how much he enjoyed it, and so on, and I left the company. I came back to do another training several months later, and somebody pulled me aside and they said, what did you do to Luther? I said, I didn't do anything to Luther. I just did a training class. Well, ever since you left, nobody wants to be around him. And I said, why? And they said, well, we go out to lunch and we say, would you pass the salt? And Luther says, what I hear you saying is you'd like salt. And I can certainly empathize with that because I like seasoning as well. And he did that all the time and just made people hate him. So you use this in those circumstances where you need to build trust. So before I go any farther, we're going to do some practice in just a few minutes. What questions do you have about what I have said so far about emptying the glass and how to empty the glass? Specifically, open-ended questions and playing back what you hear.
Why should we do that?
Very good, Ken. Who's got a question? Yes.
What if on the other party?
Oh, wait a minute. He wants me to give you this. Hold it like that.
Hello? What if on the other party there are multiple people and they have different, police groups and all their classes of film?
Yeah. Well, his question is, what if there are multiple people and they each has his or her own point of view? Is that a bad thing? It's normal, Marcy says. Yeah, so what you want to do is empty each person's glass. We talked about this morning when we talked about the gold watch that some people don't say much in a meeting. Does that mean they agree with the way the meeting's going? Not necessarily. You want to empty the glass even if they're not saying anything. So it's a good thing. It just takes more skill to reconcile different points of view. But to do that, both points of view need to be out on the table. So just empty the glass. And we'll get more into how to influence different points of view later on in the training. Thank you. Who else has a question?
I just would make an observation on your questions.
Here, use this for the video. Thank you.
I just make an observation on the questions that you laid out at that you had up there.
Right.
Help me to understand, and that's a great why question that doesn't elicit the defensiveness. And if you think about the ice cream thing with Obi, that if you're going to help me understand why you like Rocky Road so much,
Right.
it doesn't get the defensiveness up as much.
Sorry. Yeah. So, that's a really good way of doing it, and everybody's got their own ways of doing it. Why do I need this? I don't. Felt good, though. Everybody's got their own favorite way to do it and favorite questions once you get into it. So you just learn to do it. So it's a pretty easy process until things get tough. When might it be difficult for you to empty the glass?
If the client says, I've told this to your team many, many times before,
Great.
why are you making me repeat it? So
Right.
they're not willing to even talk anymore.
Right.
I said it, the glass is so full, their highest frustration level.
Right.
Which was my question to you. How do you help
So
them?
she didn't have the microphone, so I'll repeat the question. The question is, what if the client has already had their glass emptied multiple times and they're so frustrated they don't want to empty it again? At that point, you say, you know what, I'm running a little short on time, so the meeting is now going to be over. You had your hand up, Kristen.
I was just going to say, I think you can still use the my understanding is in that case, because you can say, yes, you have communicated to us a few times, and what I understand about those conversations is that you feel X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. You just go right to the prioritized playback.
So that's a good suggestion, is to play it back and say, does that sound like it, so we don't have to spend the time? If you know, of course. You may not know what's in there. Another point of view.
What I
Yeah.
would do in that situation is assure them, I make a commitment, unfortunately, I have to do that, to say that I want to be the last person that they have to do this with. And then you follow through on that commitment and you turn an angry customer into a raving fan.
So if you didn't hear that, he said, you tell them, I want to be the last person who you have to talk about it to, and I'm going to follow through on that commitment, and you follow through. Somebody else have an idea? Yeah.
I was just going to say that you could kind of frame it as you can't speak to what occurred before in the past or who they had dealt with, but
Good.
you can solution with them now, and we can move forward together.
So if you didn't get that, he said, I can't speak to what others did or didn't do. This is a way for us to move forward quickly now. So let me just say in general, if you want to empty the glass, in that case, you have to sell it. And you have to overcome their resistance to doing it. And one way to sell it is to frame it as a benefit to them. Another way is to say, I'm going to go back and learn as much as I can, and I'll come back, and what I don't know, I'll hopefully learn. And we're hearing other ideas. Was a hand up. Where were you? Yeah.
Is prioritized playback similar to like a verbal mirror, where the goal is to get them to sort of spill. Like you just say something to them, punctuate with silence, and then wait for them to sort of open up naturally anyways, even if they're being resistant?
Well, if your point is, could you just be silent and that might make them open up? It might. It might. The thing is, if they're really angry like that, they may need a reason, to keep moving other than just yelling at you. Yeah. But that's a great technique as well. So, how are you guys doing? You ready to do some practice? Great. So what I'd like you to do is to get with somebody in the room whom you didn't know until today. And if you have to move around a little bit, all the better. So go ahead and find a partner, and I'll tell you what to do.